Hey, it's Laurie Hock. I am here once again with a message from my heart geared to inspire and develop the leader within you. Thank you so much for sharing this moment with me. As I thought about what would be a good topic for this time of year, being prepared seemed like an obvious choice. Most of us are hot and heavy in the middle of preparing for the Christmas season. In fact, we've been in this holiday mode probably since before Thanksgiving. You know, it doesn't happen by accident, does it? Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever we're pulling off, there's preparation required. There's many different levels of preparation, a mental preparation, a heart level preparation, emotional preparation, physical preparation for some. When I talk about being prepared, what I want us to focus on that meaning is being prepared equivalent to a state of readiness. It's an investment. Being prepared is intentional, putting your attention towards something on purpose. What I find interesting is that a lot of times in our lives, we'll prepare for something in a disciplined, super awesome, dedicated manner. But as I look back on my life, I realize that there's a lot of things that I didn't even realize I was being prepared for. Has that happened for you too? Where there's things as you look back that you see, you didn't even realize there was someone greater than us putting together all the pieces, I call him God, lining up our steps so that we would be prepared for a particular moment when it came. Oftentimes, I think we can think we're preparing ourselves for something when in fact, the end result oftentimes looks very different. But no preparation is wasted. Do you agree? Even if the outcome isn't what we desire or thought we were aiming for, it's all building toward something. So, I want to start off by saying this message is a little bit later than I anticipated and normally would release this conversation with you two. I knew that there was some irony in it because this was all about being prepared. So I kept asking myself, my gosh, what is it with this? I feel like I'm so unprepared to share my thoughts about being prepared. It finally hit me. Some messages you just have to live, which really is the result of all my material I share here. You have to live it in order to be able to really recognize its power. So being a week late with these thoughts to you showed me that here I kept telling myself I wasn't prepared to convey my thoughts yet. What a lie. What a lie I was telling myself without even realizing it. When suddenly I began to see, we do that a lot in our lives. We feel we're not prepared. And what that does is it causes us to pause. It causes us to pause and get stuck in the preparation without being able to proceed. See, the preparing is always done with the intent that it will be applied towards something. Action has to result, or what is the point of preparing? Makes sense, doesn't it? What would be the point of preparing if we're never going to do something with that we've prepared for? But a lot of us get stuck in this trap without even realizing it. Obviously me. I was spinning in this for a week without even recognizing what was happening. We can tend to play it safe and to prepare, or to busy ourselves in other things instead of preparing. But the big picture is what we're doing is hiding. Now, when I realized it was that, it's like, oh no, we're sitting down and we're recording this message ASAP because I am not going to get stuck in this trap of hiding and playing it safe by not taking action on something. See, preparing can be a really good thing, and I'll give you some stories of that in just a moment, but preparing can also be a crutch. It can be a safety net. It can be a comfort zone that actually immobilizes us. Have you experienced that? Where you actually spent so much time preparing that by the time you had perfected it, the moment was lost. The moment was gone. The opportunity may have been missed, whether by your choice or otherwise, because you lost the momentum and you never turned it from preparing to proceeding into something on purpose. Whew. So, be aware of that. Now, we can end up, our brain wants to keep us in the status quo so badly. It will relentlessly cause us to try to empower the anxiety and the fear and these restless thoughts and what ifs and I'm not enough and I'm not ready and all of that. When really what we need to be looking for in any specific situation is that internal peace. Yeah, we may have no clue how it's going to go, especially, I hope, if you're doing something you've never done before, which is the essence of leading. The essence of leading your life, continually being in a state of something you've never done before and venturing into the unknown. The preparing happens, though, to navigate those deep waters. It happens not at the time that situation arises, but in your daily disciplines from days, weeks, months prior, oftentimes even years and decades. You see, when opportunity knocks, when your moment comes, it's not about what you can do to be prepared right then and there. It's about what you've been doing all along the way, leading up to that moment when it felt like no one was watching. This was best illustrated in current news right now with Scott Frost, a University of Nebraska football alum who was our quarterback, leading us to great victory in the 90s. He now had his time of being prepared for his big breakout moment and has recently been invited into and accepted the role of being the head coach for the University of Nebraska football team, competing in the Big Ten, the big stage now. Yes, he was a quarterback. He was a big star in those days here as a college athlete. Then he went on and had a season of being in the NFL and a variety of other coaching roles since then. But all of this, I'm sure he had greater goals at some point, that he aspired to be on the national level and catch really global attention. But he was stewarding the small steps along the way with excellence. And that's my point to you in sharing this story. He most recently was the coach at the University of Central Florida. He came on and took a team with a losing record. They had no wins. They were 0-10 or whatever it was. And in 2 short years, he turned them into a team with an undefeated record. No losses. 2 short years. 51 of the same players were a part of both the team with no wins and now 2 years later, the team with no losses. And you know what? What that did was that showed the rest of the people, without Scott even really realizing what was at hand, that showed that he was ready, that he had the leadership for a bigger stage, and he would bring a spirit of excellence to a larger platform. So when the University of Nebraska decided their current coach was finished, Scott was a natural choice. Truly, it had to have been a no-brainer because Scott had proved himself when it felt like no one was watching. So now in this moment when everything came on the line of his desire to come back and coach at his alma mater, he was ready to step into that moment. See, my colleague and friend Carrie Oberbrunner says, when you prepare for the moment's prepared for you. It's kind of like the joke of all the people saying, oh, they must be an overnight success, when we're talking about musicians or whatever kind of person just has stepped or fell into fame, when really that overnight success was a result of 20 years of stewarding and developing their potential on purpose completely committed to the disciplines required to developing their best. So when their moment came, there was no question that they were ready for it. How is that playing out in your life? What are you doing right now when it feels like no one's watching? I know for me, there's much greater things to come for how my purpose will be fulfilled to create impact across this globe. But in these days, before there's the international spotlight, I am committed to disciplines that are readying me to be able to hold that moment when it comes, to be able to sustain that level of success. It doesn't happen accidentally. There's years worth of character development required. And I believe what you're called to stand in as well isn't just some little foofy thing. You are accountable for stewarding your calling, even when it feels like there's nothing on the line. You know what? Did Scott Frost know 5 years ago that his current role was getting him this invitation to step into head coach in December of 2017 at the University of Nebraska? No. There's no way we can know how our daily disciplines and habits, how the people we're investing in, the people we're inviting and investing to be in our lives, to push us to our greater potential, how that is readying us for things we have no idea are to come. We can't even see the things that are so great now, that are before us. But by being prepared and doing the work all along the way, we'll be able to stand when the moment comes. I have found the best way to be prepared is by doing the work on myself first. Being able to do those things that are causing my potential to come forth, my leadership to develop, my thoughts to become more grounded and unleashed in the creative things. My goodness, that's the best way I can prepare. It's not about getting caught up in the doing. I'm not suggesting that. Being prepared is in the being. It's the compounded effort that has been accumulating all along the way. I just had a great success story from one of my clients that I've been working with for most of this year, 2017. And she had a real moment of opportunity arise for her at work to step into something magnificent, both in being an advocate on behalf of her organization that nobody else was really willing to do. And she had a moment to truly lead herself, to lead the whole organization for that matter, and also to lead herself into something more that would allow her to realize more of the goals and dreams she had for herself. I love looking at her experience and recognizing that in the moment when her breakthrough opportunity was at hand, she was prepared because she's been stewarding her own growth journey for months prior. So when it came to standing alone and risking that no one else would, get her or understand where she was coming from or maybe resonate with the way she saw things, she put herself out there, defied her fear, and knew that the work she'd been doing to build and strengthen and fortify and arise, awaken, call forth that leader within her, it was there when she needed it. And the success that she's experiencing now of standing when her moment of opportunity knocked, priceless. I am so proud of her. And it doesn't come down to just being prepared for that one meeting and that one important conversation. It was all the work that happened in the days and weeks and months prior, between sessions we shared and all the other aspects of the way she was cultivating that growth in her own life. Well done. Well done. Sometimes preparing is a very active process. Sometimes preparing is more waiting and more passive. I'm going through some things in my own life right now, which I'll share in a future conversation, that are requiring me to be very active on many fronts, and then in some arenas, to be totally still. You see, sometimes when we're still, we allow a greater one to do the work within us as well. For me, I call him God. And I believe he's aligning things in my circumstance and situation that if I were to get in the way of that, I would actually cause interference. So sometimes the best way to prepare is from a place of rest and holding that space of peace and knowing there's a time to go after it and there's a time to be still. And it takes true discernment and wisdom and maturity to know what is required to be prepared in any given situation. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that. I think that's given you plenty to think on. But I'll close with a quick story. I recently visited Hoover Dam. I was on a group tour, and it was amazing truly getting the behind-the-scenes underground look at this massive project that has attracted over 50 million visitors over the past 80 years. It's right on the Nevada-Arizona state line. This was an enormous engineering feat for something that was constructed during the Great Depression. And it was a 5-year project. It was projected to take 7 years, but they came in 2 years ahead of schedule because of the intensity that everyone endeavored on this and truly the remarkable preparation they did. They rerouted the Colorado River to be able to channel it to, instead of this effect of nature causing destruction to nature and man, they said, how could we harness this power so it can create good for all? So they constructed this dam, and before they could do it, they spent 1.5 years, hear me that, 18 months preparing by building channels to reroute the river so that it could be redirected around the area where the construction site had to occur. They couldn't build a dam with water racing through, so they had to redirect the water flow so the construction site could be cleared so the work could begin. It took 1.5 years to prepare that. Wow. How many of us are investing that level of intensity so the greater work can be done in our lives and come through our lives? Don't take preparing lightly, but also know when over-preparing can sabotage you from proceeding. Take inventory of what you're doing now to prepare, what you're needing to prepare for, and have some fun looking back at the things you've prepared for in life and how different they ended up working out compared to what you thought you were preparing for. There is no wasted effort in preparing. It's always going to be applied towards something, and you must prepare before you can purposely proceed.